Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. And today's topic is about whether or not Kamala Harris's campaign has reached a tipping point of implosion, because it's certainly looking that way to me. Guys, there's a website I've been using and talking about a lot. I talk about it so much some people think I might have a religious attachment to it. I don't. It's called electionbettingodds.com, and it's basically an amalgamation of where people are putting their bets on who's going to win things like the next election. Now, I'm not saying that electionbettingodds.com is accurate or right or even predictive, but what I am saying is I've been watching it, and it has been consistently showing highs and lows. Donald Trump is up, Donald Trump is down, Biden is up, Biden is down, and so on. When I went to bed the night before we recorded this, it showed that Donald Trump had an 8-point lead over Harris in terms of that's where the money is being bet on who's going to win the election. 8 points when I went to bed last night. 8.5, I think it was. I checked it just before we recorded this. It's now 12 points. Oh. That is a 4-point shift in opinion in the course of the last 12 hours. Everything that the Harris campaign is doing is showing signs of panic, and people on the other side of the aisle, on CNN and CNBC and MSNBC and all of this, the panic is real. They're seeing the numbers. We talked on our backstage, I think it was our backstage show, where we said that, in 2016, Democratic voter identity was plus 7 or 8 or something. In 2020, I think it was actually higher. Now it's Republicans are plus 1. Voter registration has been solidly Republican. It's beginning to look to me, guys, like the pieces are starting to tumble and the wheels are coming off. Steve, you've got the kind of the closest finger on the pulse of what's actually happening in real time because of your great work on Vodka Pundit and over at Instapundit. Do you get the sense that there is, it's not even that the panic is setting in. I'm convinced the panic is setting in, but humans like to be on the winning side, and conservatives tend to buck that trend because we're swimming upstream in a culture that's decidedly left wing. But it seems to me like those pool balls are starting to move, and the more they move, the faster they move, and the faster they move, the more it tilts, and the more it tilts, the faster they move.
Yeah, let me start this off with a personal story. Back around 1989, 1990, I think I was 20, 21 years old. I spent about a year and a half in a Rocky Horror Picture Show live cast. The cast that performs the show in front of the movie theater at midnight on Friday and Saturday nights. And I played Brad. And I was also the MC who hosted the pre-show warm-up, to get the crowd all excited. And we had all sorts of various stuff. There was a costume contest, and just we were doing all sorts of stuff. And I'm a Midwestern guy, and I am hosting. I've only lived in Northern California now for like a year. I'm hosting in far Northern California, behind the Redwood Curtain up in Humboldt County, this pre-show. And I'm getting the crowd warmed up, and when you're on stage and things are working, you can feel it, right? You got the crowd, and you're working them, and it's a great place to be. And I let a y'all slip out of my mouth, and you could feel the audience just slip away. These Northern Californians, y'all, who is this outsider? Who is this stranger amongst us? And I could feel this flop sweat starting. I knew I was losing them. The trick is I pulled out something from inside me where I didn't show the flop sweat, and I told a gag line instead, got the audience back, and very quickly went on to the next guy and whatever his thing was. And I could do this after I was off the stage and where nobody could see me. Because once you lose an audience, once they see you sweat, and that's where the expression comes from, never let them see you sweat, it's over. It's just over. And we are seeing signs of flop sweat in the Harris campaign. And right. Bill, you mentioned in Scott's segment, which will also air this week, can we still say air? You mentioned in Scott's segment that Harris is going to sit down with Fox News host Bret Baier, who, by the way, is a really fair guy. I think he leans to the right, but he's a really fair and tough interviewer, and that's what I like about him. I don't watch a whole lot.
Yeah, that'll happen by the time this airs, I suspect. But
yes. I think so. I saw an exchange this morning. This is Tuesday morning before the thing tapes on Twitter, on X, between Bret Baier and somebody else that I follow, that Baier said there will be no edits to the interview. It's an hour long, or probably 45 minutes, and with commercials it'll be an hour. He's going to sit down with her for the entire time. The interview will air unedited, and the transcript will be released unedited, unlike the last few little softball interviews she's had where she couldn't even get through those. The fact that she's willing to do this, assuming Brett's being honest, and I assume he is, that's a sign that this is not going well for her. It's not that she's appealing to Fox viewers, I wouldn't imagine. It's that she's finally willing to sit down for a tough, unedited interview. If we see her sweat in that thing, if we see the flop sweat, figurative, not literal, then that's it, Bill. I think that could be the tipping point.
Well, Scott, that's a great point. The second of the How to Beat Harris videos I did about a month or so ago talked about popular mass delusions and the madness of crowds, and how this tipping point thing is real, that people want to be on the side that appears to be winning. And if a crowd is moving in one direction, not all people, but most people will tend to go in the direction that the crowd is going, either because they want to be part of the winning team or they don't want to cause trouble or whatever the case may be. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Going on a hostile interview. Well, let's back up a little bit. The big criticism of Harris that was gaining traction and hurting her campaign was that she was unwilling to sit down for a serious interview. In fact, Time magazine ran this, how do you describe it? This obsequious cover of her. And now Time magazine is angry because they're not getting an interview after making her look like a saint. So this attack on Harris that had been going on for months now, that she's not willing to sit down and talk about positions because she doesn't have any, got to the point where she decided to do something about it. So she did the Oprah interview, which was not a great success. You could see Oprah thinking, my God, what is this woman talking about? She did the Call Me Daddy or Call Her Daddy, podcast. Yeah, which was widely denigrated. Then she did 60 Minutes, which was such a catastrophe that they had to fraudulently edit together an answer against a question where she just completely dropped the ball. All of this to say that all of her attempts to get out there and show that she's ready to meet the press have gone catastrophically wrong in friendly environments. The fact that she's going on Fox to be interviewed, to me, is a sign that she is so desperate that this has to happen. There's no way that a candidate who is either ahead or even close is going to take that kind of risk. This is a Hail Mary pass, in my opinion.
As I learned early on in my very brief and very minor political career from a more senior member of the local delegation, you don't go into neighborhoods that won't vote for you. So you don't waste your time, they told me, going into heavily Democratic neighborhoods. You go to neighborhoods where Republicans are, who have voted in 3 or 4 out of the last 4 elections, and you make sure they turn out to vote. So you don't go on Fox News when it's just weeks to go before the election and try to win people over for the first time. I think, in effect, in this race, Donald Trump is the incumbent. I don't think that Kamala Harris has enough of a track record that anybody is familiar with for people to look at her as if, even though Trump's campaign is trying to paint, J.D. Vance constantly refers to the Harris administration, I don't think people think that way. I think they look at Harris and go, oh, yeah, I remember when Joe announced that she was going to be VP, and then we haven't seen her since. She's not somebody who with a known track record. Similar to Hillary Clinton, she's not particularly likable, and I don't think people particularly trust her. And so that's the uphill battle that she faces. If they don't like you and they don't know you and they don't trust you, they're not going to vote for you. And Donald Trump, while a hot mess in many ways, is somebody who's been in the office before in a really difficult time and managed to be associated with prosperity and with foreign, what do they call that, international kind of victories in foreign policy and all of that. So he, in effect, has that advantage, and either you like him or you don't, but there are enough people who like him that he can win without worrying about the people who don't. And so I don't think that there are a lot of people who are running out to the polls in November just so that they can later have a bumper sticker that says, "Don't blame me, I voted for her." And so I think you're right. I think there's a certain, tipping of the table, and that people then want to be part of the winning team or want to have nothing to do with the whole business. Voter identification now plus 2% for Republicans when it used to be plus 9 for the Democrats. All of this doesn't look good. And I predict that after this election, if this tipping point theory proves to be true, after this election, we will hear two things from the Democrats. She didn't get elected because she's a woman, and she didn't get elected because she's black. America is sexist and racist. And nobody will look at the truth of the matter, which is she didn't get elected because nobody knew anything about her, she wasn't particularly likable, and they didn't trust her.
I don't know if any of you saw the less publicized public appearance she made where she said we have, was it 32 days left? We've got 32 days left.
Oh, yeah.
And then her teleprompter froze. And you could just see that.
Deer in the headlights. Yeah.
32 days.
Next.
We got 32 days left. We've got some business to do because we've got 32 days left, just 32 days, and then the prompter starts again and off she goes. Listen, if Hillary Clinton were behind in the polls and Hillary Clinton decided to go on Fox News and be interviewed by Bret Baier, this would be a risk, but it would be a manageable risk because Hillary Clinton is sharp on her feet. Hillary Clinton is a smart woman. She's made out of pure evil, but she is a smart person and extremely capable and sophisticated, been in this game a long time. Kamala Harris freezes when her teleprompter stops. It's not like when her teleprompter stops, she goes into an anecdote that has nothing to do with the topic. That's what most people would do if they weren't really good on their feet like the three of us are. We're experts at this. We're magicians. We'd be elected in a landslide, obviously. But she simply stops, and I regret that we won't be able to have that. We're taping this interview before we're taping the show before the interview, but I don't see any way out of this for her. She's going to be getting some very tough questions, and she is not known for her rapidity of thought and concise answers on her feet. This is telling me that they know that they are in Hail Mary territory. Now, every now and then a Hail Mary pass connects, but this woman can't throw. That's my entire point here. The tipping point thing is a real human phenomenon. It is, and I think Steve probably put me closest to the truth of what I'm really trying to get at with what I'm seeing here. Nobody believes you're going to win if you don't believe you're going to win. And Harris is acting like she doesn't believe she's going to win. The people around her, all of the left-wing political pundits, are talking as if she's not going to win. And the more of this that happens, the more it becomes cemented in people's minds that she's not going to win. And I've been watching, again, I'm not so concerned how accurate this election betting odds thing is in terms of how accurate is it in terms of predicting what's actually going to happen, but it is something I've been watching for 4 years, and so the trend lines have been consistent since it's essentially one poll that's been taken over the course of the last 4 or 5 years that I've been watching. And when the lead up to the Trump-Biden debate was in place, Donald Trump was ahead by about 12 points, and within 2 days after the Trump-Biden debate, Trump had a 60-point lead, a 60-point lead in terms of where people are putting their hard-earned money in terms of who they thought was going to win. That's what forced Joe Biden out of office, that kind of a collapse. I think those trend lines are going to happen this way again, and this time, I don't think they can go to a third candidate and swap her out at the last minute. This particular turkey, I think they're stuck with, and I think she's about done, and it's almost time to put a fork in her, but don't get cocky, kid. Get out there and vote early and vote often.
As many times as they'll
For
let you.
Steve Green,
Yeah.
what's that?
As many times as
as many
they'll let
times
you.
as they'll let you. Yeah, find a basket full of ballots on the street, then just fill them out and mail them in. Why not? I mean, that they want to set the rules. Those are the rules they can play by. I'm not actually seriously suggesting that you do that. I'm just being cynical about the way that they have reduced the standards of decency and integrity in our society, and I'm not recommending that you vote twice. but I
Professional
am
pundits,
recommending
do
that you
not
vote
try
once.
this at home.
That's exactly correct. This is not legal advice on my part. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Woodall. We'll see you next time on Right Angle.